Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to GraceKennedy's Investor Briefing. My name is Don Webby, and I'm the Group Chief Executive Officer. With me is Mr. Andrew Mesado, Group Chief Financial Officer. Let me say good afternoon again, and thank you very, very much for joining us for our investor briefing, the first one for 2022. We welcome all participants who have joined us for this webinar. This briefing has been scheduled to run for approximately 60 minutes. We will use 40 minutes of this time for our presentations and the remaining time to accommodate your questions. During the question and answer session, you are welcome to share your questions by emailing us at gkinvestor@gkco.com. Let me repeat that. gkinvestor@gkco.com. Or you may also call or send a text to our communication team at 876-809-1121 or 876-809-0464. Let me repeat those numbers. 876-809-1121 or 876-809-0464. So once again, ladies and gentlemen who have joined us, thank you so much. I will do a brief presentation, and you will see the PowerPoint slides coming up, and then I'll hand over to Mr. Masad, and then we'll open up for questions. So as you see, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, friends, the opening slide there is GK100, our story is your story. GK100, our story is your story. Celebrating the past, shaping the future. So, you know, as we prepared for this afternoon's investors briefing, 100 years is very special in anybody's life, including the corporate world of Grace Kennedy. And I thought I'd share this with you. In our boardroom at 73 Harbor Street, Grace Kennedy's first balance sheet is there. And if you look at that balance sheet very closely, you would see on the balance sheet Mr. Masado as one of our assets. A dray and a mule are one of our assets. And the revenue of 15,000 pounds, 15,000 pounds. And an impressive profit of 800 pounds, 800 pounds. Today, after 100 years in business, Grace Kennedy records revenues of US $800 million per annum, and we now have subsidiaries in over 50 countries across the world. What a far way we have come. And you know, when you reflect, you know, you have to be very grateful. We feel very blessed that we have achieved this kind of growth and longevity. And I just want to use this opportunity again to really thank everyone who has contributed to the company's success. Thank you so much from the bottom of our heart. And here is the surprise. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the first balance sheet of Grace Kennedy Limited. The first balance sheet of Grace Kennedy Limited. And here you go, here you go, here you go, here you go. See the dray and the mule? The dray and the mule, we capitalized it with 28 pounds. And here is our profit for the year, 800 pounds. But what is more impressive, as you know, I'm a trained accountant, when you look at the date, which is not very legible, but when you look at it very closely, the accounts were actually signed January 2023. And what that is saying, our founding fathers, the first accountants, Jimmy Solomon Sr., worked with our auditors to sign January 2023. That's just 1 month after year end. So when we talk about timely and accurate reporting, certainly our forefathers have created the standard of which we must be judged. I found this balance sheet so interesting, and I hope our viewers have also done so. So we are coming from a dray and a mule and a profit and loss. So humble beginnings, my dear friends. So how did we celebrate? As you know, we were restricted by COVID-19, but we did our best to comply with the DRM orders, etc. But one of the things as a company, we gave God thanks. We gave God thanks, and we had a service of thanksgiving at the Holy Cathedral, and I think it went very well, and I thank Archbishop Ken Richards for presiding over the Mass. Good to see our executives there in the picture, and of course yours truly addressing the congregation. And it was streamed live. So while we didn't have a physical audience in the church, or a large physical audience in the church, we did stream it live and gave God thanks. Because without God, we are nobody. And then you will see that we also had a birthday cake cutting on February 14th, our birthday. And of course, we say February 14th, Andrew, is Valentine's Day. So we brought a lot of love and joy to the occasion, and it was streamed live. And all our companies, wherever we are in the world, we actually cut the cake at the same time. You see Ding Dong there, and Ding Dong has given me the name Don Ravers, although I can't dance. It may appear that I can dance in that video or in that picture with Simone. But we really had a jolly good time at our birthday cake cutting. So one of the things that we have been discussing as an the executive team, and by extension the board, is what can we leave as a lasting effect in terms of GK 100. And we thought about it very carefully. That building that you're looking at was a building that we actually started at in 1922, and the famous 64 Harbor Street. And I know some of my colleagues, especially our pensioners, would have great memories of that location. Well, we have made a decision that we are going to convert that location of 64 Harbor Street to a GK museum. I've asked Gail Solomon and Suzanne, who will be leading the effort, to really make it a first world museum where the children, visitors, well-wishers can come and understand the history of Grace Kennedy in terms of the GK memorabilia, the artifacts and products. And we will be getting advice from top consultants, not only in Jamaica, but in the world, to how can we convert 64 Harbor Street to the GK Museum. And I'm hoping that all of you on the call here would have the opportunity later in the year to come and share that experience with us. So that's something that certainly the executives we are looking forward to sometime during 2022. So colleagues, GK responds to COVID-19, and I think this is about the 4th or 5th time I'm actually showing it, but you know, the world, Jamaica, Grace Kennedy, COVID-19 has really impacted us in a significant way. Thank God that we are seeing the numbers moving in the right direction, certainly throughout the world. And in Jamaica, I think the positivity rate now is under 4%. One of the things that we have said is that the safety and well-being of our staff is the most important for us. The last time I showed this chart, which would have been in November of 2021, that 38% that you're looking at there, the 38%, That was 60%, and we are now at 38% working remotely. So what that is saying is that the company is returning to some sort of a normality where 38% are working outside of the office, working remotely. The last time we showed, that was 60%. We have really spent a lot of time, colleagues, hosting vaccination blitzes, and 1,330 team members. And what is so heartening for me is that their family and friends and residents in the surrounding community, Southside and the rest, Raytown, they also participated in the vaccination program, and it went extremely, extremely well. We held several virtual town hall meetings where we empowered our staff to hear from Dr. Figaro, who is one of the leading experts in this field, of the pros and cons of being vaccinated, and by all indications, it went very well. As previously announced, we implemented our vaccination policy, January 14, 2022, and you'll see from the line below, which I'm extremely pleased about, is that as we speak, 80% of our staff at GraceKennedy has been fully vaccinated. And I want to use this opportunity to thank our staff for getting vaccinated, because I believe that's the only way the world, Jamaica, and GraceKennedy will return to some sort of normality. So 80% is good, and we will continue to have vaccination blitzes to ensure that we can get at 80% as close as possible to 100%. As with any pandemic, you have your challenges in terms of the day-to-day operations and management. We spend a lot of time managing the liquidity of the business, the margins, and I'm going to speak about that, especially as it relates to our food business. You know, we have to look at cost containment and cost reduction throughout the business. But I think we did very well. And last, but in my mind, most importantly, we gave back to our communities, to the less fortunate in our society, not only in Jamaica, but throughout the world. And I'm very pleased and heartened that we could afford to give back to our communities in a significant way. And I'll touch on that. So, having said that, how did we do for 2021? Our results for 2021 was good. So last year, at this time, last year, March, I shared with you the key objectives of the GraceKennedy Group. We believe in transparency, and we believe in accountability. And as I have said many times as I sit here, what gets measured gets done. So I want to report to you our scorecard in terms of how did we do for 2021. And you would have seen from the green ticks there that we have done well. And I want to use the opportunity to congratulate the team members of GraceKennedy and the executive team who worked diligently, were very focused on executing on our objectives. At GraceKennedy, I make no apology by saying that we have the best staff, the best team members in the world, Andrew, in the world. And I'm so pleased to report that our scorecard, it's, if we're a child carrying home your report to your mom and dad, that'd be 100%, all green ticks. But on a serious note, our operational efficiency and investing in manufacturing optimization was done. I'll share more about that. We invested more in our brands, and our margin management was very good. We grew market share. Our Grace brand in the USA, Jamaica, UK, Canada all grew. Our working capital management and the preservation of cash, we did very well, and I know Andrew is going to expand on that. Our digital transformation has gone extremely well. Our mergers and acquisition in terms of growth has done well. Attract and retain and develop talent at all levels, and I'll speak shortly about that. And of course, increase our corporate social responsibility. So, in reporting to you, our investors, our shareholders, and the general public, I think this scorecard has gone well. And again, I want to use the opportunity to thank the GraceKennedy team for their dedication, their support, their focus to deliver the results for this great company. And here is what it translates to in terms of our audited results. So our revenue growth for 2021 was fantastic, was really, really good. Our revenues are up 12% and or $13.9 billion. So you would see if you look back to 2019, 2020, and 2021, we have been executing on our growth strategy, our revenue strategy, quite well. Where we went from 103.1 billion. I remember that was a big celebration because we had projected 100 billion. Then we went to 115.4 billion. And now we are happy to report to our shareholders and to the investment community revenues for the GraceKennedy Group of 129.3 billion, an increase of 13.9 billion or 12%. How did that translate to profitability? Well, here you go. Profit before tax performance, we are up 20.3%. So what that is saying, our revenue increasing by 12%, but our PBT increasing by 20.3%. So in terms of the growth of revenue, we have been able to be more efficient in terms of our growth in revenue and margins because 12% and our PBT went up by 20.3%. And that's what we mean by when we say that we did well in terms of our operating efficiency. So we are now pleased to report profit before tax performance of 11.7 billion, coming from 9.7 billion, an increase of $2 billion or 20.3%. In terms of profit after tax, well, we were very efficient, and Andrew, in your tax management and your calculation of your financial performance, we went up by 30.4% or 2.1 billion. So we are pleased to report profit after tax performance of $8.9 billion, up from $6.9 billion. And again, you would see from 2019, we have been showing significant improvement in the profitability of GraceKennedy Limited. 30.4% in terms of profit after tax, up or $2.1 billion. And how did that reflect in our share price? Well, we did very well in terms of the market recognizing that the GraceKennedy's performance was good, and they rewarded us in terms of our share price. So you would see from 2020 to December 2021, our stock price went up by, let's call it about 60%, 59.6%, while the market was relatively flat. So as we speak, our stock is trading just about at $103, and that's up from 62.68 in December 2020. I think if you look at the various ratios as presented by our finance team, our PE ratio is at about 12 times, and the average market is running at about 16 times. So that would indicate to your colleagues that there's scope for the GraceKennedy stocks to go up even more in terms of value. One of the high moments for us for 2021, which we were extremely pleased about, and my board of directors, Honorable Gordon Shirley, our group chairman, and especially Gina Phillips-Black, our CGNC chairman, we were all elated, we were all very happy, because the truth is that we have put a lot of hard work in terms of corporate governance, and we have said that we want to be the best, not only in Jamaica and the Caribbean, but the world in terms of corporate governance. So when the stock exchange, the Jamaica Stock Exchange, recognized us when we won the 2020 Governor General's Award for Excellence, it was really fantastic, not only for our board of directors, Prof. Shirley and Gina, and the rest of our board, but for the GraceKennedy team, all throughout the GraceKennedy Group, that we won the top prize in terms of the JSC Governance Awards. And you can see that we won many awards. The PSOJ Corporate Governance Award, the GK won the best winner in the annual report and best website categories. Suzanne Stanley and Gail Masalaman is looking at me. Congrats, Suzanne and Gail. Well done. I wanted to win this award for a long time. Absolutely fantastic. Corporate disclosure, Andrew and myself, this is a part of the process that we're the first run-up. Let's hope we can win next time. And let me congratulate GK Capital Management, who was the winner of the Investor Relations category of the Member Dealer Awards. I've been teasing my good friend Stephen Whittingham about winning the award, and this is the first time we have won it. So congrats, Stephen and Dougie and the team at GK Capital Management. Let's continue the good work that we are doing in Investors Briefing. So in terms of corporate governance, we had a fantastic year. And I want, again, I can't say it enough, let me thank the board, Prof. Shirley and Gina, for guiding us in a very firm and strong way in terms of winning these awards, and to the executive team. So these are the highlights of the numbers that I showed you before. Our GK General Insurance, GKGI, reported strong growth in revenue from its commercial and personal lines. Key Insurance, our new addition to the GraceKennedy Group. You'll recall that we acquired the company controlling interest a few years ago. And when we acquired it, it was actually making losses. I'm so happy to report to investors this afternoon that Key Insurance has shown significant growth of 153%. Yes, 153%. If you want to be precise, 152.9% growth in PBT year over year. And again, I want to congratulate the Key members, Tamara and the team, for their excellent job in turning around the company. And the board of Key, we have a very engaged board at Key Insurance, and I want to thank them for their support. Our acquisition of Scotia Life Eastern Caribbean has gone exceptionally well, and the company, in its first year of acquisition, has shown profitability. And we are expecting 2022 to be a fantastic year for GK Life Eastern Caribbean Limited, and we're looking at the possibility of even expanding more in that area. First Global Bank, as we said, a little about the Talawa, had a good year, PBT, revenue growth, net loans growth, and deposits growth, thanks to Peter Moses, our chairman of First Global Bank, and Mariam and the team out there. Well done. And GK Capital grew both in revenues and profits. So if you look at financial services, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, we had a very good year with insurance and banking. In terms of money services, our GKMS, as we refer to it, GKMS is the largest profit contributor to the GraceKennedy Group, over 30%, and Andrew will give you some more details. They had a very good year with revenue and PBT exceeded the prior year. Grace, Margaret, and the team, fantastic. And what was very interesting, we are seeing a shift in the remittance business from location, or what we call retail, where you go to a location in New York or Canada, Toronto or Florida or Washington or somewhere in London, and you go to the location and send money to another location in Jamaica. While that is still close to 90% of the business, of the money services business, we're seeing a big shift to digital remittances, as we refer to it, where you stay at home basically and you're sending money to a bank account. And digital remittances is growing at, for us, it grew last year 80%. Worldwide, I think it's going to continue to grow faster than location or retail. So we are investing a significant amount of money, and I'll expand on that later in terms of digital remittances. The competition, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, is getting fierce. I can't think of a better word. But our partnership in Western Union is over 30 years, and we are going to continue to do well as the market leader in Trinidad, Guyana, and Jamaica, and the smaller islands. I can assure our investment public that Western Union and GraceKennedy will continue. Remember, we said a few years ago that compliance is going to be a competitive advantage. Well, it is. Our compliance reports are impeccable. If I was to give ourselves a score, it's A++. I must say for this business, and the team has worked very, very hard to get it right, and it's a competitive advantage. So I'm very optimistic about our remittance business going forward, and we're going to continue to expand. By the way, you know which market is growing significantly is actually Cayman is growing significantly. So this is going to continue to be a growth area for the GraceKennedy group of companies. As you can see in Jamaica, we have 207 locations, and we have an additional 100 locations throughout the Caribbean, and that in itself is a huge, huge asset. In terms of our food business, domestic food, Frank James, I call him Franco, and the team had a good year, revenue and profit growing over prior year. The 876 water brand which we acquired, 876, is doing exceptionally well. And what I find very pleasing to us is that the Catherine Speak brand that we also own 35% is doing very, very well. We are seeing a lot of growth in the spring water market, and we expect that growth to continue into 2022 and beyond. Our high-low chain of supermarkets, Catherine and the team, did very well, triple-digit growth in PBT. High-low, I think, has its best year in many, many years. We were very innovative, e-commerce, Gale, curbside pickup, and home delivery services going very well, and it resonated with our customers. We try to make it very hassle-free in terms of doing business with us at the high-low chain, and I must say it's going very well. In fact, we are looking at expanding our high-low supermarket. We are trying to finalize our Negril location along the 7-mile stretch there. Hopefully it will be finalized by the end of 2022. What is happening because of the worldwide pandemic, the shipping of equipment has really stalled us and had a negative impact on us, but I believe that we should be able to open that store by the end of this year, and we are actively looking at 2 other locations, one in Mandeville and another one in Portmore for high-low. So the strategy for high-low is continue to grow. It may not be in the same format, but we'll continue to grow our supermarket chain. The Grace brand in Jamaica performed exceptionally well. I thank the consumers wholeheartedly for continuing to support the Grace brand. Our corned beef, Vienna sausages, Carl Barnett and Zach would love when I say this. The Vienna sausage basically sell off. When I look at the numbers of Vienna sausages, it's just unbelievable the growth of Vienna sausages. Frankfurters growing, the sardines growing, and of course the darling Tropical Rhythms produced in Jamaica for Jamaica is also growing significantly, and by the way, it's growing all over the world, big time for Tropical Rhythms. This is one, we're talking about food security, and Zach and I had a discussion, Zach Morris, who's in charge of manufacturing, about us exporting more of what we produce in Jamaica, because I believe that is the way to go. We must increase our export, and if GraceKennedy can be an icon of leading that way, we're going to be. So 31% of our total production volume we exported last year, 2021, all over the world. We have strategized as a team that we want that figure to be 50% by 2025. So if we have products overseas that we are producing, right? That's, for example, Tropical Rhythms is produced for the Canadian market in Canada. We want to recapitalize our manufacturing systems to ensure that any product that we can manufacture in Jamaica will be manufactured in Jamaica and will not be manufactured outside of Jamaica once we are competitive. And that is a target, ladies and gentlemen and colleagues, that I'm going to be holding close to my heart, that our manufacturing plants, we need to export more, earn more foreign exchange for Jamaica, earn more foreign exchange for GraceKennedy. And I think 50% by 2025 is a reasonable target. is going to call for additional investments, but we are willing to make the investments to produce more in Jamaica and manufacture more. We refer to it as authentic Jamaican products. And I'm going to share another slide with you. Congrats, Frank James and the team, for producing excellent results in the domestic food market. In terms of our international food business, they have been really leading the way in terms of the performance. Our Grace Foods USA LLC had exceptional results in 2021, and when I say exceptional, I could use a stronger word because they're just growing year after year. I think when you look at our products in Walmart, Canada, in Canada with Loblaws, Tesco in UK, and all the independent grocers. But let me just get back to the US market a bit. You know, I believe that as a CEO, as a group CEO, you need to be in the market and you need to observe what is happening in the market. Meaning that I go to the supermarkets, I call it going in the trade, or we refer to it as going in the trade. And a few months ago, in fact, it's January of this year, I was in the trade at Miami Gardens at Walmart, and I stood up and I observed who was buying the Grace patties. And colleagues, let me tell you, the minority were Jamaicans. The Hispanics and the mainstream Americans were buying our patties. And again, the patties sell off. Unbelievable. So I'm very, very happy about the performance of USA LLC, and the growth is expected to continue. You recall also that Nourishment, we reported to the shareholders and to the board. Nourishment was basically flat, 1 year it declined marginally. Well, it has recovered for 2021, where it is now showing double-digit growth over prior year. And let me recognize Brian and Andrea and the team for that excellent performance. GF Canada, Nimal and Daniel and team doing very well. So I'm seeing a lot of further growth in the international food market for GraceKennedy. And as you have heard me said, you know, if you think about it, GraceKennedy is actually an international food business headquartered in Jamaica. But we had to reinvest in terms of getting what I've just shared with you. And we had to reinvest significantly. So in terms of the Grace brand worldwide, remember we're competing with the best in the world, you know. You have to build your brand equity. In fact, when a lot of companies were pulling back in terms of the advertising spend and the marketing spend in 2020, right? We did the opposite. We were advertising on primetime, ABC and NBC, and you know the calls that I got from Jamaicans and the diaspora saying, "Oh, Don, I saw Grace on primetime ABC and NBC. I feel so proud." So this is not a compliment to GraceKennedy alone. It's a compliment to Jamaica and Jamaicans, wherever they are in the world, that you have this Jamaican company established in 1922, growing in a mainstream market and be able to invest in our brand to advertise on mainstream. And it worked. As you can see from the performance of LLC, it worked. Significant growth in Lafayette and the Grace brand. $1.6 billion in fixed and lease assets. We're investing in fixed and lease assets. $835 million in technology. If you're not on the cutting edge of technology, you're going to be falling behind. And $752 million invested in manufacturing. And you have heard me, my position on manufacturing. The point that I'm making is that while GraceKennedy continues to grow, we are going to be significantly reinvesting in our company. And if you look at the 2022 numbers, it's even going to be more than 2021 in terms of our investment, our capital investment in the company, so we can continue to grow our company. There's a lot of discussion about food sustainability. I mean, when we think about COVID-19 and Ukraine and Russia and containers at the wharf, that kind of thing. And colleagues, this is something that I'm very passionate about. So in Jamaica, we have 6 manufacturing plants in Jamaica. We have dairy industries, which we own 50% with Frontiera, and taste the cheese and the powder milk. We have our Grace Food Processors meats in Savlamar, where our Vienna sausages and frankfurters, and the good Grace ham for Christmas time is produced. And we have our canning, Tropical Rhythms, tomato ketchup, our food drink from National Processors and the instant porridge, our Hounslow plant, jerk, the marinade, and the shredded callaloo, and the jerk seasoned frozen products. I want to share this story with you because it's important that we all understand. So we have a strategic alliance with our farmers, the unsung heroes in Jamaica, primarily coming out of St. Elizabeth. So follow me on this one. The first thing is that to protect our farmers, to ensure that natural disasters don't hurt them, we have created a product, GK Weather Product. We buy the peppers from our farmers, our Jamaican farmers. Some only have a little 5-acre, 10-acre, some are a little bigger. So we buy the peppers, and you can see the lovely peppers there, the Scotch bonnet and the red pepper. These peppers are now bought, and we have a Hounslow plant in St. Elizabeth. We process the pepper, we make the pepper mash at the Hounslow plant, 100% owned by GraceKennedy. Buy from the farmer. Here we go now, we're at Hounslow. From Hounslow, we ship it to our other plant, Denby, Clarendon. There, we process the pepper mash to the great GraceKennedy jerk sauce, which is exported. I wanted to show this chart to show what food sustainability is and self-sufficiency. The GraceKennedy hot jerk sauce that you're seeing there, that is consumed all over the world, including Holland and Germany, UK, Canada, USA, Jamaica, right? Is coming from our small farmer to our Hounslow plant, to our Denby plant, and then exported or consumed locally. Now, colleagues, that is what I call authentic Jamaican. And that's what I call with our GK Weather Protect, a win for our local farmers, a win for GraceKennedy manufacturers, and a win for our consumers. A similar process with our Akis. We buy from the farmers, the small, the large, the medium, and we process it at Denby, and it is exported. And I want to tell you something. Our Akis, you always have a shortage of Akis because we just need more production. But I thought this would be an interesting slide for all as we debate and discuss as a nation food sustainability. Remember, I had said that we need to try and reduce our food import bill, especially in these times with oil bill going up to oil going to nearly $130 per barrel. We need to produce more and reduce that food import bill, and I've said we need to reduce it by 2030 to half, 500 million. And this is the sort of investments that we're going to need in manufacturing. Our digital transformation went well. Congrats to the team. We're going to be launching 3 products very, very shortly, where you can receive your remittances on your wallet or your GK1 mobile app, where you can pay all your bills and you can top up your phone. Last year I reported about the digital factory. Well, it was launched, up and running February 21. There is a Shelley-Ann on the GK1 card, and it's going to be a huge success. You're going to see innovation that you have not seen for a long time when we launch a product. And of course, you can download it on the App Store or Google Play. Acquisitions, as we said, is a key strategic driver. Key Insurance, I've already said it, doing very well. 876, Scotia Insurance, now renamed GK Life. And what I can say to you, when we're looking across at these companies, all have done well in revenue growth. Canopy, the claims are a little high last year, but we expect with the strategic initiatives that we'll put in place, that company will be profitable very, very shortly. Andrew Learaini, our head of M&A, we sat this morning. There are about 11 acquisitions that we have in the pipeline, food companies, financial services companies, and there's one interesting one which we are very close to signing off on, which I would describe as a marketing research, data analytic, fintech company. That's a mouthful, but it's a very interesting acquisition. And the way we want to position that company is that it's going to be a private equity investment. What I mean by that is that GraceKennedy is not going to get involved in the day-to-day operations of the business. However, we'll have members on the board, and we will also provide the governance structure that we are strong in to that company. The plan going into the future is actually to list that company on the exchange and broaden the ownership base on, for the company. Very, very exciting. We have been having several meetings, Kerry Ann Evans, Andrew Learaini, Gail, and myself, and we are close to be making an announcement, obviously subject to further due diligence, but I'm excited about that acquisition, and hopefully in a week or two, I'll make a formal announcement and advise our regulators if and when it happens. So acquisitions, the pipeline is very strong. There's one as a private equity investor we will be participating in, and others in terms of inside and outside Jamaica that we are actively working on. I'm sure a lot of you recall that last year I made a comment that if you want a successful company, there's a strong correlation between profitability and employee engagement. And when you look at the scores, where the international benchmark is 66%, and last year, despite the pandemic, we showed an engagement score of 71%. And this year, when Naomi came and handed me the report, it was 72%. I'm so pleased that our members, our team members, are engaged. This is the single most important thing for us as executive team. And I really want to use this opportunity again, and I can't say it enough, I want to thank the GraceKennedy staff for their dedication, their commitment, their loyalty in what has been a very difficult period in the lives of all of us. I know we have lost some loved ones. Some of you got ill with COVID-19. But we stayed focused, we prayed, we stuck together stronger as a team together, and we delivered on the results. And I'm so pleased about the employee engagement of our staff. The staff, from the cashiers at Hilo to remittances, to the gentlemen and women who are picking the goods at our distribution center in Bernard Lodge, to every GraceKennedy staff. I want to publicly, in this investors briefing, big you up big time. And I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart that we have come through this period very successfully. And as I said before, and I'll say it again in the presentation, the best is yet to come. But without you guys, we'll be nowhere where we are. I'm probably the one that is on the page of the newspapers and so, but it's really you guys. You are the ones why GraceKennedy is so successful. Thanks a lot. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Corporate social responsibility. This is one that Caroline Mahfood and we're very excited about. You know, sometimes when you look at the environment, I mean, when my children talk about the environment, they're not happy campers. So Caroline, you know, she has been working with the Ocean Cleanup and the Clean Harbor in Jamaica Limited, and we have a interceptor barrier to trap the debris that flows from the Kingston gullies into the harbor, and you'd see the pictorial there. I think, colleagues, that this potentially could be a game changer for the beautiful harbor, which I'm actually looking at now in Kingston, downtown Kingston, Jamaica. Caroline, I wish you and your team all the best on this one here, and you have the full support of GraceKennedy. This is a game changer. We need to get our environment right, and what I'm seeing and what we are noticing, when you look at the beach cleanup with the plastics and so, we certainly need to do a better job. In terms of the Grace and staff, a few years ago I set a target of what get measured gets done, Andrew, of 1,000 by 2022. Well, in November of last year, they came to me, Don, I'm ahead of the target. We are sending at GraceKennedy, in terms of tuition, and it's more than tuition, nutrition, 1,068 children, high school children, to school, tertiary students. And let me say this to you. My mother was a teacher for over 50 years. I believe education is a real solution to Jamaica's problems. It shouldn't be a privilege, it should be a priority. And when I look at the grades of these children from the surrounding areas in terms of what we're operating in, and Sandrina, I'm seeing 6 A's, 8 A's in the sciences. All these children want is an opportunity, some guidance, some mentorship, and we're going to have a better Jamaica. We're going to have a better Jamaica. Let us rally behind as a private sector group of companies, all my private sector colleagues there, let us contribute to education in Jamaica for a better Jamaica. Because I'm sure every single one of those 1,068 students are going to be better citizens, and they're going to be setting examples for all of us in the future. I have no doubt about that. And I'm really, really pleased about that initiative. Let us invest in education as a nation. So let us talk a little bit about the 2022 strategy. Colleagues, I must be honest with you. I'm seeing a lot of headwinds for 2022, a lot of headwinds. We speak about the supply chain challenges caused by the pandemic. Derek Record and Andrea, that's our USA company, said to me that the demurrage up there is significant because what is happening, you don't get any containers for a week and then you get all in 1 week and you have to clear them very quickly. And the inconsistent internal supply chain management, Zach is working his head off. But it's going to be a challenge for us, and in discussion with the experts, we expect this challenge to continue for the rest of 2022. Supply chain challenges. So and then you have the rise in production costs. So it's a double whammy, right? You have the product prices increasing because of global inflation, and then you have the supply chain challenges. But we have a great team in place, and I'm sure we're going to be managing it as best as possible. At GraceKennedy, we are very, very concerned about the Russia-Ukraine war. Not only supply chain disruption, but the significant price increases. You have already seen oil prices going close to 130. And as you know, Jamaica is an import-dependent on oil country. And you know, I was happy to hear the minister speaking about solar, but we need to do a lot more in terms of growing our solar energy in Jamaica. We are the land of wood and water with a lot of sun and sea. As I said before, inflation has surged, so we have to be managing our margins very, very carefully with our consumers, because we have to bear our consumers in mind in terms of the surge in prices for food and energy. So we are doing all that we can to pass on the least amount of price increases to our consumers anywhere they are in the world. The central bank has been very vocal in terms of inflationary pressures. I'm seeing some numbers that I haven't seen for a very, very long time. And as you know, inflation is not good. I have a lot of confidence in the governor of the central bank, Richard Biles, and his team, that they'll do a good job to manage it as best as possible. But this is not a Jamaica phenomenon. This is a world phenomenon in terms of interest rates going up and inflationary pressures. And of course, the dollar has shown a lot of volatility, up and down, so that has to be managed carefully. And as I said, I'm not sure if you read the RGR clipping that remittances were actually down in January, and remittances has come as the main source of foreign exchange for our country. So we have some headwinds, but I think with the strategic initiative that we have in place, we have put in place risk management measures, mitigating measures to ensure that we can manage these headwinds as best as we can. And we'll meet every Monday morning as a senior executive team at 9 o'clock to go through all the challenges that we have and how are we going to convert those challenges to opportunities. So here's the 2022 focus areas. As I showed you the scorecard for 2021, I'll show you what we are hoping to achieve for 2022. We're a very forward-looking company, a very transparent company. As I said to you, we're going to be looking at more mergers and acquisitions, cross-selling in the group, the ecosystem of GraceKennedy as a group in terms of insurance, high-low remittances. We believe that we can do a much better job in terms of cross-selling. The digital factory roadmap, we're going to be launching 3 products very shortly, and we're going to be expanding on that. We're going to be expanding our SAP, which is really the information system or the enterprise resource system for all our food business all over the world. We're going to be upgrading it to be best in class. And of course, with that come more efficiency and more customer-friendly interactions. That investment is quite heavy. It's going to be a US $7 million investment. But when you look at the payback, and it's going to be very good, and we're looking forward to that. That will flow down to efficiencies. The talent, this is the heartbeat, greatest assets on GraceKennedy balance sheet. We're going to have to attract, retain, and develop talents at all levels. Robust succession planning. LLC and UK, while they're doing very well, we still have a lot of legs. There are a lot of white spaces in those markets. So geographical expansion and expanded distribution points. We're expecting significant growth out of those companies. Consolidating the factories, we refer to it as NALCON, that will complete at the end of 22, and at that point we're going to be able to produce our products at a very competitive rate. And as I said earlier, our revenue and profitability of money services. So next year I'll present another scorecard, but colleagues, I feel very strongly we have a great team in place, and I believe we do have the right strategies in place to execute on this, and I'm expecting 2022 to be another good year despite the headwinds that I've shared with you. So in closing, in terms of our 2022 plans, and as I said to you, GraceKennedy, we care. We care about our staff, where we'll promote teamwork, mutual respect, care, open communication, empowerment, and accountability. We care about our customers and consumers. We commit that we'll maintain high product and service standards as we honor our commitments. We care about our shareholders. We want to give them a good return on their investment. As you can see, the financial results is at a historical high, both revenue and profitability and cash flow. And we care about our communities. That ocean cleanup is going to be critical for us. So we're going to be a socially responsible company, caring and environmental conscious corporate citizen. And we'll be introducing our ESG strategy, environmental, social, and governance, very shortly. And that is going to be the guiding star for the GraceKennedy Group in terms of environment, social, and governance. And our creed, honesty, integrity, and trust. So in closing, and before I hand over to Mr. Mesado, one of my favorite sayings in this world, which I use quite often, is alone we can do so little, together we can do so much. Alone, we can do so little. Together, we can do so much. Helen Keller. So in that light, let me use this opportunity again to thank our board of directors, our chairman, Professor Gordon Shirley, our employees, our customers. Without you, we would not be. And our shareholders for their unwavering support and loyalty as we realize our mission and vision, guided always by our core principles of honesty, integrity, and trust. And as I said before, and I feel very strongly about it, colleagues, for this great company, as we celebrate 100 years this year, the best is yet to come. Thank you very much. I'm now going to hand over to Andrew, who will quickly take us through the numbers, and then we will open up for questions. Andrew, over to you, my CFO.
Thank you, Don. And good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for participating in this investor briefing. So what I'd say about 2021 is that we really had an excellent year in terms of our financial performance. What you'll see is that all of our key financial metrics were positive for 2021, and there were several milestones, several records that were broken. So let me start off first by talking about our revenue. As we said earlier, revenue up $13.9 billion. Now we're showing revenue of $129 billion, up 12%. And then our profit from our other income really showing also improved performance. Now, in terms of our profit before tax, this is really a milestone performance where we have broken for the first time that $10 billion mark, where our profits before tax now exceed $10 billion at $11.7 billion for 2021, an increase of 20.3%. And then our profit attributable to shareholders, this is really the portion of the profits that stay with the shareholders of GraceKennedy Limited after we've given the portion that minority interests would hold, up significantly at 31.7% to $8.2 billion. Our assets have also grown significantly, showing an increase of 16% up to $199.8 billion, almost at the $200 billion mark. And a major part there of the asset growth is in our liquid assets. So we're seeing that for our cash up over $5 billion, investments up over $7 billion. We continue to keep strong liquidity position, especially in these uncertain times, to make sure that we have funds readily available to supply our markets. Additionally, for working capital, you'll see that our working capital has increased, especially inventory. And one of the reasons why you'd see inventory going up is in order to safeguard our supply to the market, because as was mentioned earlier, with the supply chain challenges around the world and logistics challenges as well, what we've had to do is make sure that we have sufficient stock to make sure that we can provide our consumers with the goods when they need it. And then stockholders' equity, and this is really the portion of the balance sheet that is totally for the shareholder, and we see that growing by over 12%. We've maintained strong liquidity position, and with increased profitability out of this equity, we've been able to pay increased dividends. So just to give a highlights on our dividend payments over the years, you've seen steady growth. Consistently every year we have had increased payments of dividends to our shareholders. And last year we had a significant increase of over 20% to $1.9 billion. That's over $300 million increase in our dividend payout for 2021. So this is an additional return. So in addition to having the stock price increase by almost 60% last year, the shareholders would also have gotten a cash return on their investment in the form of dividends. Now, in terms of our segment result performance for 2021, what we saw is that all of our business segments showed improvements in revenue growth, where we have money services growing by 7.9%. With money services, we did see an increase in our inbound transaction volumes. We also saw good growth, not only in our Jamaican market, but also in the rest of the Caribbean, where Trinidad, Guyana, Cayman, as well as Bahamas, showing good growth in transactions. In terms of insurance, we saw very good growth, over 20% growth in revenue. Key Insurance continues to do well, and our other general insurance company, GKGI, they also are doing very well, growing in all areas of the general insurance market, led by property as well as the other segments of their insurance business. For banking and investments, a growth of 8.6%. What we see here is that our bank, First Global Bank, showing growth in their revenue and their other income streams, and also GK Capital doing well for 2021. And then our food trading companies, you'll notice there another milestone where for the first time our food segment is producing revenue of over $100 billion. And so food trading up by 11.8%, growth both in our Jamaican market as well as an international market. All our international companies have shown growth. And what we saw for international markets in particular is that, with the hospitality industry starting to reopen in 2021, we saw good sales returning for UK and then in US and Canada as well. And of course, locally in Jamaica, we saw both our distribution companies and our retail companies doing very well in terms of improved revenue, strong growth in our Grace brand, both in Jamaica and overseas, and also some of our other own brands like 876 Water in Jamaica. We're also seeing improvements in Nourishment in the UK, and then our other Grace brands internationally. So in terms of our performance on the profit line, how did this translate into profits? So what we saw is 3 out of our 4 business segments showed increase in profitability for 2021. On the money services side, we saw a 2.1% increase. And so coming from their growth in revenue, we did see improved profitability. Some of that growth was used to fund our additional investments in things like our digital products that we're going to be launching shortly. So we are investing for growth for the future. In terms of our insurance companies, we did see significant growth there. And so, as I mentioned earlier, our general insurance companies are doing well. And in addition to that, our acquisition of GK Life, formerly Scotia Insurance, that company was acquired last year and is profitable and has been contributing to the bottom line. So very good growth overall for the insurance business. And then banking and investments, you do see a decline there. However, First Global Bank did show profits improving over 2020. And so their revenue streams have translated to improved profitability. What we did so, though, for the division overall is that they have invested in our digital factory. There are several new products coming out this year. So that investment was used to build for the future, building for digital growth, for better interaction with our consumers, giving them other options of how to transact businesses with us. And then on the food side, a significant growth in our food division's profitability, growing by 40%. What you will notice is that for the food division, now showing the highest profitability level of all the segments at $5.4 billion. And so that segment is really showing improvement, even in the face of things like supply chain challenges and labor supply shortages, especially on international markets. They were able to overcome some of these challenges to show very good growth. As I mentioned earlier, all the areas of food trading have shown growth. In particular, the international markets or local food distribution and retail. And then for our factories, we saw steady growth, steady performance for them. There have been challenges, of course, in terms of raw material procurement and also dealing with supply chain challenges. But they have been managing quite well with it. And we do see that they are doing well. So overall, we're very pleased with the results of the group. We do believe that there's a lot of opportunity for improvement. We have been positioning ourselves, in terms of looking at efficiency, in terms of looking at new ways to serve our customers, whether it be online channels to buy your insurance, or digital sign-up for remittance businesses, or interacting with First Global Bank's global access software to do all your transactions online. And then in the international market, you can buy our food products in the US on Instacart. So there are many options now for persons, especially post-COVID and during COVID, to be able to interact in a digital way if you can't physically go to our locations. So we are looking forward to all of the plans that we have for 2022 and beyond. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrew. I'm just trying to get ourselves together in terms of the questions that we're going to be answering. Okay, we have quite a few questions here, so let us start. First question, how is GK being affected by the Russia-Ukraine conflict in its food division? That's a real good question, but before, let me say that based on what I've been seeing on the news, CNN and other stations, I think what I'm seeing happening is it's actually very sad, and I'd like to express our condolences to all of the families in the Ukraine that is being impacted by this horrible, horrible war. And I also would like to say that I'm very happy to see that the Jamaican students studying in Ukraine actually arrived home safely, so thank God for that. In terms of our direct impact on GraceKennedy, it's primarily because of the uncertainty in the world and the oil prices going up to 130. That is going to impact our inputs in terms of our raw materials for the food business, and the general, what I refer to as cost push inflation on our food business. So I expect that, and it's also going to affect the shipping of certain products. So it's going to have an impact. I've asked my team to do a risk assessment of the Russia-Ukraine war and how we're going to manage it, and I'm expecting to get a report by next week, Monday, for us to go through very carefully and create the necessary actions to try and mitigate as best as possible. But it's very sad based on what I've seeing is happening. And I'm really hoping that it will come to an end very shortly. With CSGK now 50% owned by GK, and your plans for the Eastern Caribbean, is there any change or update to that business? Also, is Cave Shepherd a 50% owner now after owning 40%? Okay, so many years ago, GraceKennedy acquired a merchant bank in Barbados in terms of our expansion and meeting our goal of half our profits outside of Jamaica. And our partner was Cave Shepherd and Neil and Massey. So Cave Shepherd owned 40%, GraceKennedy owned 40%, and Neil and Massey, or Massey I would say, my friend Jervis would not be happy since he has spent so much money on rebranding. Massey owned 20%. We did an acquisition of another company called Globe, and our company owned by Cave Shepherd 40, GraceKennedy 40, Neil and Massey 20, became the largest merchant bank in Barbados, and it has been doing very well. Last year was a bit of a challenge with COVID and the economy being locked down, but I've noticed already the opening up of the Barbados economy, improvements in the performance already of the company. So Massey decided to sell their 20%, so GraceKennedy bought 10, and Cape Shepherd bought 10. So Cape Shepherd and GraceKennedy were now equal shareholders in Signia Globe. The dairy industries, that's our cheese factory, which I shared with you. The dairy industry export more, or is the domestic market that robust for revenue growth? So let me say that dairy had a very, very good year. We had a double-digit export growth for dairy with our cheese. I know Jamaicans overseas especially look forward to the bun and cheese for Easter, and that has been going very well. So we actually showed a double-digit growth in exports for our tasted cheese. But what I'd also say is that both domestic and the export market grew significantly in 2021. What's the acquisition plans for the finance side? As I said to you, we have about 11 companies in the pipeline. A lot of them are financial services. We're looking at companies in the Eastern Caribbean primarily. Insurance is a big segment for us that we have a few looking at, and money services. And one of them is actually in Barbados in terms of money services. So on the finance side, primarily focusing on the Eastern Caribbean to do more acquisitions in insurance and money services. I think I feel fairly confident that my team is working through a few. They're at various stages. Some of them we have even reached the stage of sitting around the table and negotiating. So hopefully, after we do our significant due diligence and our lawyers get around to the agreements, hopefully we can announce something very shortly. But as you realize, that's very sensitive information, so I have to be very careful how I answer that question. But that is from David Rose, a GK shareholder. David, you don't ask me about key this year, man. I don't understand you. What else is there? From David, is GK participating in the BOJ's CBDC program through FGB? The question is that we have not made a final, the answer, sorry, is that we have not made a final decision of how we will be working with the BOJ and the CBDC. What I can say though is that we're going to be FGB working very closely with the Digital Factory to participate next year, and we'll give more information in that regard. But I know Mariam and Ratliff and the team, they have been very active in terms of reviewing the CBDC before they make a final recommendation. Andrew, I think this one is for you. Are we going to see a stock split or spin-off this year? I will start, and then Andrew can answer. I know stock split is very topical at this time, but what I'd say is that we're always looking at opportunities in the GraceKennedy Group to maximize our shareholders' value and our market capitalization. I think based on what is happening in the market, a stock split is an option. Andrew and his team, they review it and report to the executives and to the board of the pros and cons. But that's just one of a few in terms of how do we increase market cap for the company. So it is being looked at, and Andrew and his team, they are looking at the numbers. Andrew?
Thank you. So yes, I mean, it's an option, and we are reviewing it. I mean, one of the rationale for a stock split has to do with the tradability and whether the price is at the right level for persons, for investors to participate. So we just released our year-end results for 2021, and we are monitoring the market to see how it reacts and whether any action is required by the company to look at whether or not it makes sense. But yes, it is an option, and we are reviewing it to see whether the tradability factor is indicating that we should do a split or not.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Catherine speak. Colleagues, it's very, very nice. Very, very refreshing, Mr. Masado. Yes, and the tropical rhythms here. I love this one, the mango carrot. Can you zoom in, guys? Mango carrot, love it, love it, love it. Tropical rhythms, mango carrot. And then this one is a favorite, the pineapple ginger. Zoom in again for me. Very, very nice. If you haven't tried it, try it. Try it, it's great. All right, next question. GK delisted from Barbados Stock Exchange in 2020, that's correct, but is the one of the owners of Signia Globe Financial here. Sorry, that earlier question, Andrew, was from Think Right Holdings Limited. That's a cool name. And this one is from Sean Comerbach, a business reporter. What potential is there for the group to increase its investments in Barbados? Okay? Are those opportunities like to be in financial services? So let me take it one at a time. The delisting from the Barbados Stock Exchange has nothing to do with Barbados or the Barbados economy. It more has to do with the liquidity of the various exchanges in the Caribbean. Sean, you recall, for over 15 years now, I have been calling for one Caribbean stock exchange because I believe it can increase the market capitalization of all listed companies in the Caribbean. What we found in Barbados that the liquidity was very low, and it really did not make sense at the time to continue to list. But the fundamental problem that we have in the Caribbean is that the markets are too fragmented. In other words, I believe the way to go is to have one stock exchange, a Caribbean stock exchange, where all companies are listed on the exchange. And I believe you're going to attract new investments, new companies to the exchange, because you're going to have a deeper market, and the liquidity will be there. So I just wanted to say that before I answer your specific question. Yes, we're looking at increasing our investments in Barbados, looking very seriously also. And yes, it will be in the financial services sector. That's the ones that we have in the pipeline at this time. But we are open. Your Prime Minister, Mia Mottley, made a brave move, and I thought it was actually very innovative for her in terms of the corporate tax rate at where it is now. And I think that in itself is going to attract a lot of other Caribbean companies to invest in Barbados. It is very, very attractive, and we are looking at acquisitions in Barbados. Any more questions on this one here? Have I done my... Okay. First page. The other question now. Al Edwards from Our Today, one of the most experienced journalists, business journalists in Jamaica, Mr. Al Edwards. Al is saying a good performance for 2021 with GraceKennedy closing. Al, my colleagues here are not doing it justice in terms of their handwriting, so I'm just trying to pick up the questions here. Are there any updates on listing on the New York Stock Exchange or London Stock Exchange? Great question, Al. So we are now finalizing, I should say, our 2030 vision. And a huge part of that 2030 vision includes listing of our food division. As I said before, our food division is an international company headquartered in Jamaica. So to list it on an overseas stock exchange, I mean, you get advice and you get different opinions, whether it should be Canadian exchange or the US exchange, NASDAQ or New York or even the London Stock Exchange. We are no experts in the capital market as it relates to the USA, Canada, or London. So what we have done, we have actually interviewing, we are having discussions with investment bankers now as we speak, and we have already completed about 3 investment bankers, and we're going to do 1 next week. Basically saying to them, this is our 2030 vision. We believe that we're bringing a lot to the market in terms of listing Grace Foods on the market. And we want to appoint an investment banker. So the process, Al, has started where we are engaging investment bankers, doing our due diligence on investment bankers to advise us on whether what we are saying as part of our 2030 vision, whether it makes sense, and if it makes sense, what is the best approach to do it. So having said that, by the way, one of the things I said in the ad, which I found very interesting, and I saw some articles reflecting on what they're saying. He said that there is a huge appetite for ethnic food businesses in the US market. In other words, when an ethnic food company comes to the market in the USA, whether it's NASDAQ or New York, the multiples are quite high. And you know, GraceKennedy fits into that category because we own Lafayette, which is a Hispanic brand. We own the Grace brand, which is the market leader in Caribbean brands anywhere in the world. And we're actually looking at how do we get into the Mexican market. So I believe we have a good value proposition, Al. I believe we have a good story to tell in terms of listing on an overseas stock exchange. I've been personally working long and hard, long hours on it with my team to see what the next step will be. But the next step for us, we need to get an investment banker on board, and the process has started. So hopefully that has answered your question. But you know, the Jamaican brand is very powerful, and we appeared, GraceKennedy appeared in Forbes.com, and it was very, very positive in terms of GraceKennedy and Caribbean food. Okay, what are the 2022 budget allocations for mergers and acquisition, and you need to adhere to greater efficiencies? Obviously, and this is from Huntley, obviously Huntley, and thanks for that question, but you know that I would not be able to disclose that sort of confidential information about budget allocations for mergers and acquisitions. But what I'll tell you in terms of human resources and funding that we have put in place, it is significant, and the pipeline that we have, we're doing our detailed due diligence, and I'm hoping to make some announcements shortly in terms of successful acquisitions. New investments in the food business to achieve greater efficiency. Huntley, you have heard me, the SAP, which is the heartbeat, is the information system for our foods business. And we're talking about standard operating procedures. You know what I find, Huntley, is that sometimes when companies put in new software systems, they actually change their business processes. Sorry, I should say it the other way. They actually don't change their business processes to adapt to the new software system, and that creates inefficiencies. At GraceKennedy, with the new SAP for HANA, which is a $7 million US investment, it's going to create a lot of efficiencies because we are going to be determined to really go through with a fine-tooth comb all our business processes throughout the world, UK, Canada, USA, Jamaica, to create a more efficient business processes as we adopt this cutting-edge new SAP technology. As it relates to manufacturing, we're going to be investing in new equipment all over the world in terms of being very competitive. One of the things, you know, Huntley, that we do as a standard exercise, and we've been doing it for a number of years, is that we actually do a detailed benchmarking exercise. So when Huntley made say to Don, we're talking about great efficiencies. We measure our efficiencies against the best in the world. So when I look at my manufacturing, or my let's use distribution cost per unit for our USA business, I measure it against Goya, I measure it against Nestle, of how are we doing against the best in the world. And we try and put in strategies in place to ensure that we can come as close as possible to best in the world. And that SAP investments, I don't want to overplay it, but it's going to help us in terms of efficiencies, data analytics, customer interaction and experience, supply chain management as we move forward. But thanks a lot, Huntley, and I've heard from you for a long time, so it's nice to hear from you. How much time I have? Okay, all right. David Rose again. Mr. Rose, you're letting me down, you know, man. You know questions and key. David Rose for the Observer. David is asking, can you give us an update on how the GK funds will be rolled out and if there is a target funds under management you want to achieve? I had a meeting last week Thursday, with our partners. I'm under a confidentiality agreement until certain documents are signed off by our lawyers. But what I can say is that the GK mutual funds, which we manage through GK Capital, is going to be very, very, very exciting. And I believe it's going to do very well for us. David, give me a few weeks until we sort out the agreement with our partners, who are very, very experienced in this business here and one of the largest in the region. And then I'll get back to you on that. So to call a targeted number, I would be very hesitant to do that until we sign off on certain agreements and some strategic budgets going forward. But what I can say to you is that we are very, very, very close in terms of launching the three funds. You discussed the 100 billion revenue target by 2022. You're surprised at 2 years over the next 20. What's your plans? All right. Great question, David. So as I said to you, yes, we did set a figure for 2022 of 100 billion, and we achieved that 2 years earlier, as you said. Where we are now, David, is that we had engaged PricewaterhouseCoopers. I believe, as I said to Huntley earlier, that we need to benchmark against the best in the world. So we engaged Pricewaterhouse International to look at all our business units and benchmark them against the world. That was a detailed exercise. We had 70 meetings with Pricewaterhouse International from all over the world. And they did a detailed exercise, right? So, having said that, we have a figure for what we described as our 2030 vision. Our 2030 vision for revenue. Our current revenue now, and I hope you're not going to get upset with me, Andrew. Our current revenue now is about $800 million US. Our 2030 vision revenue target is $2.5 billion. 800 million, and we intend to grow this business profitably by 2030 to $2.5 billion. We have all the strategies behind it. Obviously, acquisition is going to be one, but that's the figure that we're holding up. So, I'm quoting it in US dollars. The 100 billion was in Jamaican dollars. So, as I said to Al earlier, if we're going to be listing on a US exchange, we have to talk the talk, and the talk is US dollars. So, I'm looking at a revenue of 2.5 billion by 2030, up from about 800 million in 2021. It's aggressive, it's ambitious, it's audacious, and all of those words, but, you know, I just believe in GraceKennedy, and I believe in Jamaica, and I believe in our consumers all over the world, that with the right focus, we can do it. You know, I showed my team, we had a business conference January 15th of this year, where 500 of the top executives of GraceKennedy we got together. And I showed them a video of Richard Branson in his spaceship when he was in space. And he says, for all of you children down there looking at me, I was once a child, and I used to look up, and I used to say one day I'd love to be in space in my own spaceship. Well, here I am today. Don't be afraid to dream. And that's the exact words I said to my team at GraceKennedy. As a Jamaican company, as a Jamaican managed company, don't be afraid to dream. And GraceKennedy, the best is yet to come, and the 2.5 million will be real. I feel very confident of that. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. If I'm not getting any more questions, but if you do have questions, please email them to gkinvestor@gkco.com. So ladies and gentlemen, this brings today's briefing to an end. Thank you so much for joining us. I know all of you have a busy schedule, and thank you for your time and your participation. Gentlemen and ladies, thank you so much for your questions. I found them very interesting, very thought-provoking in certain areas. And as of tomorrow, and let me just get the thing, the link of today's broadcast will be available on our corporate website, www.GraceKennedy.com. That's as of tomorrow. Dale, am I correct? www.GraceKennedy.com, and it will be uploaded tomorrow. And as I said before, if you have any additional questions, please submit them to gkinvestor@gkco.com. gkinvestor@gkco.com. Let me close again by saying we value your feedback on the streaming experience and any suggestions you may have as to how to improve this experience for you. We'd really like the feedback. We are always willing to improve, and we have an AGM coming up, so we can use your suggestions or your comments to improve on how we can even have a better experience for our AGM. Thank you very much, everybody. Stay safe, and God bless all of you. God bless our country, Jamaica, the greatest country in the world. Thank you very much.